Yo, how are we in 2023 and Anthony Martial is still starting up front for Manchester United? I don't care what the circumstances are. I think it's a fucking disgrace. Once Rasmus Højlund came on, it immediately changed the game because at the very least he actually sprinted towards Jamal Lascelles and Fabian Schär. Fabian Schär was practically walking past Martial before he was belatedly substituted, in my opinion. Newcastle's attacks start from their central defenders, and they were helped out tonight by the sheer lack of pressing from United. Marcus Rashford, embarrassing. Happily letting Tino Livramento skip past him, jogging back, looking disinterested, throwing his arms in the air. He should be told to go and fuck himself. But he'll probably hit the town tonight and start again next week. Look at Miguel Almiron and Anthony Gordon. The fight, the energy, their application. Every time Anthony Gordon gave the ball away, which was not often, he sprinted back to try and win it back like his life depended on it. And he's been doing that all season. He must be baffled that Rashford is ahead of him in the pecking order for the England national team. This isn't specific to Newcastle either. As great as they are at this, Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester City, Spurs, all of the top teams. Actually, these days, all Premier League teams really have their wingers track back. Because if they don't, they won't play the following week. I'm fascinated by and love speaking about the tactical element of the game. But what was most evident from this game of football was the difference in work rate, commitment and passion. Newcastle won every 50-50. It felt like they won every 50-50 ball and worked tirelessly out of possession. I've often been critical of Roy Keane's punditry, but his age-old criticism of Manchester United's character and personality would have been quite fitting today. Are Newcastle a better team than United? Yes. Are they better coached? Clearly. Are they well organised and do they have a clear way that they want to play? 100%. 17-year-old Lewis Miley has seamlessly transitioned into this team, and that's not just because he's an excellent footballer, but it's also because he has a clearly defined role in the team. It also must be a dream to play alongside Bruno Guimaraes and Joe Linton. For all the great things that Eddie Howe has done, turning Joe Linton from a misfiring striker to one of the best box-to-box midfielders in the Premier League, if not in Europe at the moment, is up there with the most impressive. Miley, as you could see in this game, has already developed a really good understanding with Kieran Trippier and Miguel Almiron on that right-hand side. The same can be said for Livramento, who's just come into the team recently, for Dan Burn, his relationship with Anthony Gordon and Joe Linton on the opposite side of the pitch. It doesn't seem to matter if it's Sven Botman or Jamal Lascelles at the back, Alexander Isak or Callum Wilson up front, Sean Longstaff, Sandro Tonali or Lewis Miley in midfield. They're still a very well coached team with a very clear way of playing. I've always said the biggest indicator of a top coach is not necessarily what he does in the transfer market and who he brings in, but can he improve players that were already at the club? So in this regard, I can't speak highly enough about the job that Eddie Howe has done. Speaking of teenagers starting in midfield, I really do feel sorry for Kobe Mainoo. He's been thrown into a team that, in stark contrast, doesn't seem to have a clearly defined approach, and he's been partnered with fucking Scott McTominay. How is he in this team? How is he still in this team? And what does this say about Sofyan Amrabat? And for all the people out there who are just going to say he just had a great World Cup, he didn't just have a great World Cup. He was a brilliant player for Fiorentina. He's not just good at putting out fires in midfield, but he's very good technically, and everything Fiorentina did well went through him. He was their version of Rodri. He hasn't hit the ground running, but he must have been brought in for a reason. Why did they sign him? Give him time in a settled side and back the player that you wanted to play for your football club. I know it's easier said than done, but Scott McTominay isn't exactly putting in stellar performances every week. I also, surprisingly enough, feel sorry for Bruno Fernandes. He's picking up his head and he's looking at Martial and Rashford in particular, just floating around aimlessly. He must be wondering what it would be like to play in the midfield of Manchester City, Liverpool, Arsenal, or even this Newcastle team. You can't not sympathise with his frustrations because he is a top player regardless of whether or not you think he's a bit of a prick sometimes. I know United have injuries and their manager has fallen out with a few players, but surely they're better than this. They've only beaten teams in the bottom half of the league this season. They're out of the Carabao Cup and it looks like they're heading out of the Champions League as well. Who's to blame? Most people would like to blame one thing. It's human to try and find that one thing, but it is multifaceted. I don't know what the manager is trying to do. Some of the players have a history of downing tools and their recruitment is a complete disgrace. Is it any wonder that the fans blame the Glazers? Because this has all happened under their ownership, so I can understand at least why so many fans are so vocal against the Glazers. Anyway, a deep dive on the current state of Manchester United is probably outside the scope of this brief video. Fair play to Newcastle, another brilliant performance. They're really a joy to watch. St James's Park is quickly becoming one of the most feared away grounds in the Premier League. And on Manchester United, where do they go from here? They have a tough run of fixtures coming up, and I just struggle to see how things change for them. The club just feels rotten to the core. Anyway, that's all from me. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know what you agree or disagree with in the comments section. Please hit the like button and subscribe for more football related content. Cheers.